Hi everyone, welcome back to the Watch Insider. My name is Brian and thank you all for logging on. I am joined tonight after a, 2-week hiatus?
I feel like we haven't had both on the set in like 2 months.
Yeah, you look a lot different than CQ.
Yeah, I will say this, CQ is more charismatic. On the other hand,
he got amazing reviews.
Oh no, he's better than I am, no question. CQ's a normal human being, I'm a bot.
No,
I'm a bot in physical form. Okay, so rock and roll, what are you wearing?
So I will give this over to you. So this is I haven't worn it in the show in a while. This is a 5980 slash 1A. So it's a Patek Philippe Nautilus chronograph. It is the first chronograph that they put into a Nautilus watch. It's the original version of the watch with a blue dial. Obviously, the watch has seen its...
it's a slash 1A because it's been slashed horrendously.
So it's definitely seen its fair share of wear. And, you know, it's probably, I would have to say, like the top 3 watches in my collection.
It gets worn. It's well loved. Is it going to be laser welded at service? You better believe it. All right, and I'll show them what I'm wearing because you guys haven't seen me in, oh gosh, it feels like 2 months. I know it's only been a few weeks, but you know me, I'm predictable. This watch is on every single show. So if you're new to the program, EZM 1.1, 500 pieces, limited edition, a much loved tribute to a 1990s Zinn classic. Lefty chrono, radial indication, modified 7750. You get the minutes and the seconds at center. Everything else minimized, rotating bezel, bidirectional. It's a wonderful watch for telling time, and after all, isn't that the point?
Okay, so we've got a lot of exciting watches here on the table tonight. I'm trying to log into the show here. Here we go.
I trust that you guys are joining us from far flung, so I'm going to roll out into the testing zone with a Rolex Daytona. We're going to open and close with a Rolex Daytona. First and foremost on the table, we have a lovely white gold Argent dial, tone-on-tone register, 116509 in white gold. Now, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I've seen about 6 or 7 of the Platinum Anniversary Daytonas in the wild. This is probably the only, I've seen 1, maybe 2 of these. So if you want absolute exclusivity, get one of the full bracelet white gold watches, and if you prefer, get the tone-on-tone register, because this is a lovely modern take on the classic Panda dial. It is very charming, and I have to say the fact that it's not a straight silver, it's more of a sort of argent with a little mix of anthracite, gives it immense power, mystique, and aura. It's everything you expect in a Kozma, a 40mm watch that wears like a giant because of its stature. Let me throw that one on the wrist and give you a quick wrist shot, because I'm going to do a wrist shot with a very different kind of Daytona at the end of the show, and you're going to find that the 40 is going to look downright gigantic. Here you go. The winner's gift at the annual 24 Hours of Daytona, they get two-tone, you get full gold. One up the winners. 16 centimeter circumference wrist, 3-day power reserve, vertical clutch column wheel, COSC, and yes, it's swimmable if you find you're more likely to ply your business on Daytona Beach than at Daytona Speedway.
So I have to say that this is definitely my favorite new Daytona dial that they've come out with, that sort of brush gray with the black subs. And I was never a white metal person until recently, but I dig this watch completely on the white gold bracelet. I think it's understated, it's elegant. You know, there's a lot of differentiation now between this watch and the current stainless steel version of the watch. I think that was one of the drawbacks of the white gold Daytona in the past, was that it did sort of look like the stainless steel version, but now, you know, you can immediately tell that there's a difference. And I just think that there's a very different look and feel on the wrist. But when you hold up the stainless steel one next to the white gold one, there's definitely even a different look when they're in person.
Definitely. The jump from a ceramic bezel back to a metal bezel kind of brings the watch back to its roots, and we'll talk about what those are in a moment, but it's a very distinctive look now that the steel has gone to all ceramic bezels. Okay, what should we talk about next? Upmarket or down?
Let's go upmarket a little bit. Why don't we talk about the 5550?
Okay.
So this is a watch that I have to say we have not had in stock in a very, very long time. So this is a 5550p Advanced Research Patek Philippe. The watch came out in 2011. It was a 300-piece edition, and it wasn't the last of the Advanced Research, because they did come out with the Advanced Research Aquanaut a year or so ago, but it was the predecessor to that one. So this one features all of the improvements that Patek Philippe had done in the movement. You've got the magnifier on the back of the watch. And it's just a marvelous example of the piece. I mean, you've got the brush dial, you've got the black indices, amazing finish. To me, this is by far and away my favorite of the Advanced Research watches. It's not even close, and that includes the Aquanaut.
Yeah, this is easily the most interesting watch because While the earlier examples might have been annual calendars, this is the first and only thus far to be a perpetual calendar. This is also the only watch that puts all the advanced research features together. The first advanced research watch came out with a silicon escape wheel back in 2005, and from those humble beginnings, Patek built up to what it calls a Silomax. You've got the Gyromax SI yoke-shaped silicon balance with the gold weights outboard. You've got a fully silicon escapement, the lever and the wheel. You've got the Spiromax silicon hairspring. All those things together operating unlubricated, so you don't have that limiting feature on your watch. Oftentimes, lubrication of the escapement is one of the qualities of the watch that degrades and becomes a leading cause of a service. So you have longer intervals between service, better timekeeping, more stable due to thermal variation affecting these components less, and it's important to note because they have less friction, the 48-hour power reserve of the standard caliber 240Q becomes 70 hours, so there are concrete advantages. It doesn't just look cool. And once again, though there is sort of a productionized version of the advanced research technologies, the 5235 regulator does not feature the Gyromax SI balance. How much do you love those tone-on-tone gold and steel brushed vertical graining? Absolutely sensational.
And the other amazing feature of the watch, which is not carried through with the other, call it 5140 pieces, is the luminescent dots at the end of the indices and the luminescent hands. So this is a watch that definitely has more of a casual feel than some of its, call it counterparts. And I think that, it's a really cool added feature that you could read the watch at night.
And if you're ever wondering where the diamond is hiding between the lugs on the perpetual calendar Pateks, oftentimes it's at 12 o'clock rather than 6 because, duh. All right, that's a fun watch. That's probably the most interesting watch we've got on the table, I gotta be honest.
So we've got a message from Watch Doctor, drinking game with Brian, shot for every time. He says favorite, can't argue with those watches though. I mean, I honestly think like they all are my favorites because that's why I'm bringing them on the show.
Well, they can't possibly be your favorites because we don't have any F. Vacheron on the table tonight.
That is very true.
But we do have a lot of good brands. In fact, we've got 2 of the big 3.
Yeah. So we can go downstream a little bit now. Why don't we talk about the Bremont? So this is a watch, actually, I don't think I've ever brought on the show. And it's not a brand that you hear about as often anymore, but I saw this watch. The size is what drew it to me first. I'm so used to seeing larger Bremonts, and they actually don't fit my wrist particularly well. They're a little bit thick, they're a little bit larger, and when I saw this watch and I saw the size of the case, it's a 40 millimeter Supermarine that they do, and it's got almost like a matte ceramic bezel, and I just thought like the retro vibes of the watch were absolutely awesome, and it fits my wrist spot on. And one of the things that I drew me to the watch as well was the sort of just that calfskin brown strap that gives the entire watch a more casual look, as opposed to being super sporty.
There's a lot to recommend this watch. First, the versatile size, 40 millimeters, anyone can wear it. Second, Bremont watches don't look like everything else. That case design is distinctive of the brand, and it's smart because they physically separate the canister of the dial and the movement from the ergonomic aspects. They have these teardrop lugs that bend nicely around the wrist. Their steel is always face hardened to better resist scratches and scuffs, and the watch is a certified chronometer, so it has a lot in its favor and high value with that ceramic capped bezel. The nice thing about the bezel too is it has a wonderful detent. Okay, quick sound bite. We're doing a bezel capture right here.
And it also has that sort of faux patina on the hands and indices.
It has fauxtina. That's a
fauxtina.
fact.
Got the lingo down.
You got the Supermarine record-setting float plane on the case back. In case you're wondering why the Supermarine Spitfire fighter was called Supermarine, it's because the company got its start making float planes. A sensational watch built in Britain.
Yeah, and I mean, the case itself, as you mentioned, the design is sort of, it's very ergonomic to the wrist. So even though it is thick, it sits really comfortably. And I have to say, like, I really, really do like this thing. It'd be very interesting in titanium as well.
Yeah, it's one heck of a cool watch, and I have to say, all things considered, vintage is fun until you start wearing vintage. Then you realize the watches are fragile, the parts are irreplaceable, they can't get wet, and you spend so much money on it, you're afraid to ding it. So just wear a watch that looks old. Problem solved.
Alrighty, so let's see. So welcome back, Matt Forster, Mark S., a lot of our regulars, Kevin S., JBO Surf. Welcome, guys, back.
By the way, let's acknowledge our studio audience. Daniel and Chris, welcome, guys.
Welcome, guys. So we have a couple of Watchbox fans here in the room tonight. So if you guys are ever in Philadelphia, feel free to stop by, say hello to us, and maybe you'll get to join in on the show.
And now that all of you have gathered and we have the biggest possible audience, before you start tailing off, let me announce our new Watchbox website. It's all new. TheWatchbox.com has been redesigned top to bottom. It's faster, it's easier to search, it looks better, but above all, it gets you to your watch more quickly, helping to find the perfect match. It's a matchmaker not named Grandma. Thank you so much, Watchbox creative team and tech folks, for making this happen. A huge upgrade. There is a companion upgrade coming to the app very soon. Remember to download our Watchbox app. You can use it to search every watch you see here.
Yeah. So, and I just want to give a big thank you to the tech team and everybody involved in rolling out the website. It was a lot of man hours from a lot of people, and it came out great. The website's definitely more robust, so if you've been on our website before, it's going to be a much better experience, and it's going to be really easy now to see all of our content outside of just YouTube. But again, please check out the new website, and if you guys have any feedback, definitely let us know what you think.
Right. So I'm actually going to show one of our guests' watches. This is probably the cleanest and most intact red sub 1680 I have ever seen. This is Daniel's personal watch. This is a Mark V red sub, and okay, take a look at the dial. That's great. That's clean enough that you could eat off of it. But then you look at the lugs, and that's where I gasp and say, oh my God, because you never see an early 70s Rolex case with all of the original factory bevel, all of the original factory metal. These lugs are even, full, and symmetrical, not just from side to side, but from end to end. That is as good as I have ever seen. I imagine if you bought this watch back in the early 1970s, you would have walked away with no more metal than Daniel is currently wearing on his wrist. That is time capsule type stuff. And again, that's before you even get to a dial that has not one errant mark. That is an awesome Mark V. Hell, that's about as good a red sub as I have ever seen. I'm not going to do a wrist shot out of pure respect, but guys, if you're looking to buy a red sub, use this as your reference, because you can't do any better.
Wrist shot.
Wrist shot? All right. By popular
We've got to
demand.
call for a wrist shot. I think this thing is slowly appreciating now just by you trying it on.
Yeah, you can find it on eBay 5 minutes after the broadcast ends. I gotta say, it wears more like a modern sub because it has so much of the original case intact. It looks great. I gotta tell you, this is shocking. I've probably shot 20 red subs over the years, and I doubt even Rolex's archive has a better example than this. One hell of a watch, and for once, I'm pumping a watch that we're not trying to dump. The pump and the dump goes from us and continues with him. So check with Daniel after the show.
Okay. All right, so guys, this is a show where we answer questions, so please, if you have any questions about any of the watches on the table, anything going on in the industry, or watches in general, don't hesitate to ask.
Yeah, Mike Fisher's got one. Chopard Milli Milia, yay or nay?
Yay.
They're fun watches.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, I would say it depends on which one. I mean, there's ones that I honestly don't really care for at all, and then there's ones that I really, really do like. I like some of the retro ones with smaller cases, like the titanium cases. Put it on they make that tire tread rubber strap, which I think is one of the best rubber straps that anybody still does.
Interesting things to think about with the Milli Milia. In 2007, there was a fun color series where they had one watch in each of the most prominent national racing colors. So you can get Italian red or British racing green. Those were all nicely sized watches, steel case, chronometers, great pickups. Lately, you've seen more in-house calibers in the Milli Milia series, but I would say the most interesting models to get would probably be the models that Chopard, they build a small run each year for the participants in the Milli Milia event. Since, I want to say 1977, it's been a road rally for vintage cars from the original 1927 to 1957 racing Milli Milia. So if you can get one of those entrant watches, those are really scarce, and people tend to buy those and hang on to them, so that'd be the one to get.
So comment from NS something, this new lighting is great. I don't live in fear of being permanently blinded by reflections the next time you guys pick up a Breitling nav timer. So I'm not going to comment on the last part of that, but I do have to say the lighting is great. I mean, we both look tan in this lighting. I mean, I look great right now.
Well, I look good the farther they get from the desk. So they're farther away tonight, so it's geometric. I look that much better. They go 2 times farther, I look 4 times as good. Oh, right. We have a question about the 5550, and I can absolutely help you with that. So, what does the 5550 cost if you actually want to buy this watch? That's why I'm sitting here with our
Let's
handy
take a look. What does it say?
DMS, or data management system, and if it weren't for an internet connection,
I don't know that it's even been priced yet.
slower than Florida elections.
I don't think that it's been posted to the website yet.
Well, we'll know in about 10 minutes once our system processes that request. Okay.
Okay, let's keep going.
Jump along. It'll come up. We'll get that.
Why don't we do the Vacheron right now?
Yep.
So, another one of the big three. Here we have a Vacheron Constantin Historique 1941?
This is the 21.
21, I am sorry. But what's special about this watch, I should have known that.
It's okay. Vacheron's ICBM is already on the way.
So this is a 1921, but what's special about this watch is it's a boutique-only limited edition. They do make this watch in yellow gold in the standard production, but the limited edition version of the watch does not have the luminescent hands and Arabic numerals here. So it's got, again, another faux Tina, faux vintage type of vibe. But again, I think that they executed this watch really well, and I want to say it's only 64 examples.
That's right, Madison's 64th.
Which for a brand like Vacheron is virtually none.
That's true. Limited editions have been abused as of late, but 64 is a true limited series. Now, the interesting thing about this watch is in yellow gold, this was announced in 2011, available for 2012. 64 piece is dedicated to a geographically proximate cause, the Madison and 64th Vacheron Boutique in New York City. So if you wanted a yellow gold 1921, that didn't reach the mainstream market till 2014. This was the first, and this dial in particular is exclusive to the boutique edition. So you get a very cool New York City edition that is truly tied to the American market, the namesake of the watch. So if you're going to buy an American, get a real American limited edition, and with 64 pieces made, it's got an interesting story behind it. You can actually visit its home on Madison 64th and help yourself to Vacheron's chocolates and Perrier, but if you don't want to make the trip, you still get all of the best Geneva has to offer on the caseback with the caliber 4400. This movement is in-house, and it actually launched with the original modern-day 1921 back in 2008. Manual wind, 65-hour power reserve. You can see it's a traditional center wheel architecture, so it's a very old-school pocket watch style design, and then it has the Geneva hallmark naturally, so you get a very high degree of finish. If you buy this watch, buy the plane ticket to Madison and 64th, yes, but also buy a loop, because this watch deserves it. And how about that little heart they snuck in right there? I love it.
Where?
Right there on the hour hand.
Oh, wow.
Boom.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely think that the obviously the hands and the numerals are important to the dial, but they just make this watch.
It's a monstrous 40 millimeter watch. I gotta say, they built a smaller version of it in 2017 because 40 millimeters in this shape feels like it feels like a saucer. It's broad, it's flat, it's extraordinary. Don't write this watch off. If you think 40 is too small for you, you can see it's not even approaching the edges of my wrist, but the case itself has so much stance and presence and persona. Definitely consider this on your list of sporty watches. It's not a sports watch, but then again, it's also not a receding and genteel, over-refined and wan dress watch. This thing has a lot of punch and personality.
And, Rick TikTok just said probably VC's only recognizable at a distance watch, and took the words right out of my mouth. I talk about all the time how important it is for a watch to be recognizable from a distance, and I think that this is one of the few watches that is so unique to Vacheron that if you see it from a distance and you know watches, you know that it's the history of 1921, and I think that that's really important. It's one of the reasons why so many people like the watch, and one of the features that sets it apart.
Yeah, and the overseas isn't quite there yet, but I think it's getting closer.
Okay. Did you see that the prototype? I mean, I wish we had a photo. I should have said something earlier, but they just did a titanium prototype Vacheron overseas.
Is it going to be an only watch offering?
I don't think it's an only watch offering. It's currently a prototype. They did it for a climber that just climbed Everest.
Oh, interesting piece. We'll have to look into that. I have to admit, I'm actually narrating an only watch video this year. The Arnold & Son video is going to be narrated by yours truly, but after they've cut and pasted and reconfigured my language, I'm not sure it's going to be recognizable. They'll do a great job, and we want to get big money for that watch, so hopefully they'll bring in someone more qualified. I recommend James Earl Jones, a veteran voice actor, maybe Mark Hamill. He did the Joker. But yeah, We made a pass, and it's going to be my voice in the Arnold & Son only watch offering. I'm not going to tell you when or what model,
That's awesome.
but it'll break cover soon enough.
So if our video team in the back feels like Googling Vacheron Overseas Prototype, all the pictures come up right away. And if you want to or are able to pop up one here on the TV for a second at some, I'm getting the nod. That's a no. That's a no. CNN could do it.
Well, yeah. Write the check. So we have a question. A founder, Timeless Capital, asking, you guys don't often mention Girard-Perregaux. It's his most prominent watch collection theme, and it's one of his favorite brands. What do we think of GP?
Big fan of GP. I mean, I think that for me, it just depends on the reference and which watch. I think GP overall, we've brought them on the show. I don't think that the brand itself gets enough love. I mean, they produce all of their movements in-house. I think that one of the biggest detriments to the brand, or one of the feelings that most collectors at this point have, is that they probably don't hold their value all that well. But you can get really great watches at a good value pre-owned, particularly their chronos. I mean, they make a chrono that looks exactly like this watch that we have right here. That is
nice transition, right?
I mean, for the first time, that was me. It's the same movement as the 5070. I mean, it's a Lemania-based chronograph movement. Am I wrong here, and you're not going to correct me, or it is?
Yeah, no, they're not using the Lemania-based chronograph caliber, but it is a spot on.
I'm looking up what the caliber is.
It is a body double. Yes, the 1966 chronograph.
Because I call it the GP 5070.
It certainly looks the part. Well, right here we've got the actual 5070, and this is the 5070P, the 1-year only model. This is probably the coolest Patek chronograph from any era. A sensational sunburst blue dial with a double-track concentric scale outboard. The fact that the movement is undersized for the case is easily forgivable because it is gorgeous. This is the same movement that, in a slightly different configuration, went to the moon on Apollo 11 as the Omega 321, and here you can see it with Geneva seal.
I'm turning this laptop around so that we can get a look here. So tell me that this is not a GP 5070 right here. Hold on.
Can we do that?
Can we zoom?
We probably can't get them in the same focal plane. Boom, there you go.
Boom, there we go. And it's a blue dial nonetheless.
But let me be clear.
For 31,200 euro.
GP makes wonderful watches that are not inspired by other brands. I'm a big fan of the WWTC chronograph. If GP has a single calling card, it's the 43mm WWTC chrono. Not the later, larger Traveler, but the 43. A really lovely watch, a practical watch, all in-house, and inspired by absolutely nothing. That one is all Girard-Perregaux. And by the way, if you've ever had a chance to go to the Blue Building, the headquarters of Girard-Perregaux, incredible things going on in there. This year with the Quasar, silicon case, or excuse me, crystal case, sapphire case, micro rotor, automatic winding, sensational, three-dimensional, hand-finished, almost, it's almost ethereal. Check out the Girard-Perregaux Quasar.
So who does the movement?
On that watch?
Yeah, on the chrono that we just showed.
Oh, that's GP.
Oh, in-house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Even better.
Okay. So back to the 5070P. Guys, this was a 1-year model, and if they made 250 per medal per year of the 5070, consensus is that this one was more like 170 to 190. They didn't quite make 200. It is a lovely watch, and you can see that the stepped pagoda-like bezel gives the watch an incredibly broad footing. This was a size launched in yellow gold for 1998, and do you have any idea how progressive this kind of case size was on a men's dress watch in 1998? Sensational stuff, and still the ultimate Patek chrono in my book, and maybe the ultimate Patek. That's a hell of a timepiece.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is... I mean, I've said favorite too many times on the show, but it's my favorite 5070. This, along with the G, are probably my two that I
got to admit, I like the yellow gold with the black dial. It's very sharp.
It's harder for me to read.
It's harder to read, but this drama about the black dial on the yellow gold case, it's like, it looks so good, I don't need to look any closer.
But just, the size and look and feel of this watch is just absolutely magnificent. And I think that it's definitely one of those watches where you see the others a lot more often than you would see this watch. And I just think that...
Well, we've had one, and I've been here for 5 years.
Yeah, so the watch is magnificent. It's one of the better blues that I've seen them do. They've done black blues, they've done the blues that are on the 5711. I mean, there's been a lot of variations of the watch, but the watch itself is magnificent, and it's hard to describe the feel of the platinum, on your wrist, just the overall heft of the watch.
It takes you back.
Yeah.
Even if you've only experienced white gold, platinum, especially in a large case, really sneaks up on you. It's very special. I've had a couple of platinum watches. It was a total pleasure. I'll also mention there's a very similar watch, 5070p, that was made for the London exhibition. They have a different dial blue and slightly different dial printing. You will tell them apart when you see them side by side. Let's jump to something that's about as different as you can get.
So I saw this watch and, A, the first thing that came to my mind is throwback, but B, it's summertime and I just thought, like, why the hell not? So here we have the original iteration of the Breitling Emergency, and when the Emergency came out, like, the concept, I think overall, like, watch people loved. Like, you had this technical instrument and you could be anywhere in the world. We're not going to pull out the antennas now, but you pull out these two antennas and then somebody comes and rescues you wherever you are. And just the concept was awesome, right? Like, it was a true tool watch, and there was a purpose for the item. So originally, it could actually only be sold to pilots, and then it transitioned out that anybody could buy the watch. But one of the features of the watch that I thought was most interesting is that they did them in different metals, stainless steel. This particular example is titanium, and it has a bright orange dial. And you could keep it on the titanium bracelet. You could put it on a rubber strap, and you've got the digital display there. So it's a highly technical, functional watch. You've got the analog display as well, so it's similar to the other aerospaces that are out there. But it's an overall big, chunky feel on the wrist. It definitely is a conversation piece. And I just think, like, if you're looking for a really cool, unique watch that you're not going to really see around, where the prices right now are not that crazy, this is a really good option. And also, it's just a bright orange, very cool dial.
A couple things to mention about this model. You can see this is the roughly 1995 to 2001 model, 43 millimeters. You can see it's on a Professional 1 bracelet matching titanium. The watch is bold. It's got that volcano orange dial, and it has a compass rose style bidirectional rotating bezel. It's a super quartz. It's a multifunction. It is very handy, but I do have to warn you, God help you if you deploy that emergency beacon without proper cause. If you have due cause, if you have force majeure, as they say, and you use this watch properly, rumor has it Breitling will pay you $25,000 and service your watch. But you are looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in international fines if you set this thing off for fun. Now, what does it actually have? Well, it's got that caliber 56 high-end quartz movement, and then that's based on an ETA, but the actual beacon itself is made by Dassault, the French defense contractor. You know them from the Dassault Mirage, for example, a combat aircraft. Well, that part is remarkable because it broadcasts on the now somewhat obsolete 121.5 megahertz frequency, and it has a duration of 48 hours and a range of about 160 kilometers. What you do is you screw this little cap off, and
Should we do it?
Are you ready to write the check?
Is it even on?
Well, there's actually testing gear that comes with this watch, so you can safely test it to make sure it still works as a beacon without, paying the big bucks. So the timepiece is wonderfully versatile, and if I were offshore sailing, if I were hiking in remote areas, if I were out on a survival outing or a hunting trip, any condition where I might encounter a genuine emergency, that's considered fair game for the use of the watch. I can't imagine being in a 40-foot boat sailing around the world or cruising offshore, losing my craft and not having a way to radio for assistance. This thing is usable on the still monitored, the somewhat obsolete but still monitored 121.5, so this is still very much valid rescue gear, and frankly, it'd be a wonderful way to express your enthusiasm for watches. Probably a fashion very few folks ever have. Google British aviators in Antarctica. You can learn all about an instance when that watch was actually used for its intended purpose.
Yeah. So what else do we have here on the table?
We've got the closer.
We've got the closer. Close it.
Okay. Launched in 1971 and rarely seen. This is the Rolex Oyster Cosmograph 6263. Now this one right here has a 7 million serial number, so while it's generally regarded to have been built in the late 70s, the watches didn't receive serials till they left Rolex, and this one left Rolex for sale in 1982 based on the 7 million serial. This is an entirely different breed. Panda dial, 37.5 millimeter case, manual wind, plexiglass crystal. You rarely see watches like this because in an era when the 1990s 90s Zenith Daytona is now considered to be vintage. This is almost on another planet of attainability, and to find one in this condition, and the most desirable, in my opinion, spec of the original Daytona with the 727 Rolex movement, one of the few Rolex movements in history that is genuinely beautiful in its finish and considerable in its modification over the base V72. This thing is just a stunner. And in 1982, John Paul Jr. and John Paul Sr. won the 24 Hours of Daytona in a Porsche 935. And you know something? The romance, the mystique, and the aura of this watch makes me want to believe that the watch was there to see it. Let me throw it on the wrist. You can see the difference in the size of the case compared to a modern 40mm Daytona. An entirely different look and feel, and this is one of the greats. Rolex Oyster Cosmograph Daytona 6263. Boom.
Beautiful piece.
And if you're wondering about $86,000.
I still can't believe how crazy these things are. Well.
All right, we just hit our concurrent viewer peak with that watch. Let's leave them wanting more.
Okay.
Check out our new website.
Yes, so www.watchbox.com. My name is Brian. This is Tim. And thank you guys for logging on.
Good to be back.
Good to be back.